Hello, Steve. Hello, Joe. It's time to game classy.
In progress.
We're waiting on Steve to get his audio up.
Can you not hear me?
I can hear you.
Oh,
I
okay.
got you now.
Very good.
So how's it going, Steve?
It's going all right.
You ready to talk about Games Workshop price increases?
I mean, do we need to talk about something that happens every year?
Apparently we do, because that's what the internet is all abuzz over.
Oh yes, this thing that never happens suddenly happened. You know, the annual price raise that they've done every fucking year. Like the news would be if they didn't do a price raise.
I mean, it's a bit of a hefty price raise too this time.
It's 6%. I mean,
Yeah.
that's so. I mean, coming from the other side of gaming, like, in terms of like gaming as a whole, you know, everyone's raised their prices. Every company's raised their prices. Every single company has raised their prices. Wizards of the Coast, Pokemon, every single thing. And
Steve,
I can say, go
Steve,
ahead.
if you don't like it, you know what that's called?
Not liking it is
No.
called?
What they're doing. It's called capitalism, people. And
Oh,
if you don't like it, you don't like capitalism.
it's true.
So
Yeah.
join us.
I mean, I would only call it gouging if it wasn't toys.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, if it's just hurting people who are dumb enough to play with toys, then I guess.
Well, no, it's more like, I don't know. What gouging to me has that connotation where it's just like, you know, gouging on luxury items doesn't really kind of like sync together, you know?
So what you're saying is that the bourgeoisie is spending the excess capital on toys?
Well, now I'm saying they're mad because they're going to spend the money anyway. They're just going to spend more.
Yes. There you go.
But further to my point, 6% is actually pretty low, all things considered, compared to the other compared to the industry standard of like most places raise theirs by 10%. So
Did they really? Wow.
yeah, like Pokemon, I think Pokemon's actually almost 11%. So yeah,
maybe me and you should invest in being like printers in the United States as opposed to being in China. We could probably make bank at the rate that that all the shipping costs are going at.
you might be right. I mean, you're not wrong. Local resources are a thing.
Let's talk with Pat. Let's see if we can get some robots that do stuff for us.
Speaking of robots, I mean, that's the other thing too. If you are, you know, if this is the final straw, well, if you want to save money and you still want to play with models, now is the time to buy a 3D printer. Get yourself an Elegoo.
Brr.
Yeah, get yourself an Elegoo.
Yes.
I don't know.
So just for Adepticon this year, I'm playing in the 30K tournaments.
Oh,
I actually just designed and printed for these 30K tournament. And that's not tournaments. It's more like
is it a narrative event?
a narrative event. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because I was saying because you know we've made our stance perfectly clear several times about 40K and 40K tournaments, but I will say the grand narrative event for 40K looks really dope. Like that looks like something that I would be interested in doing. Like if you're gonna play, you know, if you're gonna play with toys in a communal setting, I think going with the narrative campaigns is probably a better idea than just showing up and getting your shit blown up by some guy who just dropped $2,000 on the most expensive new busted army.
Yeah. But yeah, I designed and printed up challenge coins based on my army.
Oh.
Yeah. So they do say Game Classy Joe on there, and they
Nice.
they got the Blood Angel symbol and the symbol for the event and stuff. But that's like what people should be moving towards. You know, there's no reason not to go into 3D printing at this point. Not a single reason. Okay, there is one reason, Steve. And that is if you play at a Games Workshop store.
That's true.
You shouldn't get into 3D printing because they won't let you play anymore.
Also, it depends on how many models you want.
Not really.
If you are, no, I mean, I would say like if you don't plan to be printing models like all the time, I wouldn't get a 3D printer.
Okay, yeah, okay, I see what you're saying. But if you're like
for me, a 3D printer would be an absolute waste. Because I make one model purchase, give or take, I make one model purchase like every other year. So for me, a 3D printer would be very excessive.
Yeah, that would be probably a little excessive. You probably, but see, that's the thing is that like it's good the way that you're doing it, and it's kind of I'm almost at that point now where it's like I don't need to purchase it. I never need to purchase another model in my life. I probably will if I find something that's cool and I'm like, ooh, I really want to paint that. But more than likely, I could find a 3D equivalent for it very soon, right?
Right.
So
Yeah.
I don't worry about that too much, but I'm pretty much only things I'm printing at this point are if I'm like I see something that's really cool that I find a 3D print of, and I'm like I kind of just want to print that and like hold it and maybe touch it a little bit.
Very good.
And I'm not talking about like anime statues. I'm talking like beefy orcs and shit like that. You know.
Well, see, unlike Warhammer models, anime jizz statues are reasonably priced sometimes.
That's going to be the title of this episode.
Anime jizz statues are reasonably priced sometimes.
Yes, anime jizz statues are reasonably priced.
You got to put the sometimes in there.
Sometimes.
You got to put the sometimes in there.
You know, I think it's probably more than sometimes. I think it's probably the majority. I'm sure there are
that's
some.
true.
Like,
I think
models.
I think the deluxe ones are the really expensive ones are the actual outliers, not the average price. Because I mean, your average price. I mean, I got some pretty good ones for like I don't know, like $30. Like that's not expensive. They're
No.
nice looking figures.
Are they dishwasher? Are they able to be put in the dishwasher?
Well, I think they're PVC, so
Dishwasher safe.
is PVC dishwasher safe? I don't actually know.
Oh, PVC is dishwasher safe. I just want to know if the paint is.
That's true.
Yeah, because if you put them in there and then the paint gets washed off, then that's the problem.
I don't know. It's interesting. I'd have to look into that.
Yeah. See, you don't know everything.
Well, see, I mean, the thing is, I don't actually know if these are. So I'm not up to date with toy technology. So for all I know, these aren't actually hand painted. These might just be produced in the colors that they're in.
Yeah, your knowledge of toy technology at this point is still at it's nerf or nothing phase.
I mean, that's is that statement ever going to be wrong?
No,
I don't think so.
Because as we all know, it is nerf or nothing.
It is nerf or nothing. Yeah, exactly.
And we all know that Super Soakers sucked. It suck right now. So you have to go back and got to find it before they were sold. So you could use these, so you could get the good Super Soakers. That's what
Yes.
I do that, by the way. Every spring I go out to all of the Goodwills around here and I just buy old Super Soakers.
Look for Super Soakers from the 90s.
2000s mostly.
Okay. I mean, those are also good.
Yeah, the ones from the 90s are way more difficult to find and they are super expensive.
Yeah. Well, I imagine that they all still work perfectly.
No, they don't, because and that's the thing is like they don't always work perfectly because it's based on pressure, seal, and water. So you're going to get a lot of mildew, and you're also going to get a lot of burst seals.
It's true, I suppose.
So don't rely on that too much. But
the gun should work because you could just get a new ammo container, right?
Container. Yeah, it's like I got an old one from the 90s, one of the ones that has the front that you twist and it moves the nozzle in different directions. It's a really stupid gun, right? It's called like a 3-way, right? Nerf 3-way. Have you ever had a Nerf or a Super Soaker 3-way?
You know what? I've never had a Super Soaker 3-way, but I would absolutely love to have a Super Soaker 3-way.
Yeah, there you go. I think there's probably.
I mean, I'd settle for being with just one Super Soaker, to be honest with you.
Yes, if you'd like a Super Soaker 3-way, I'm sure there's a local forum where you just go into Google and type Super Soaker 3-way Chicagoland area, and I'm sure you'll find something.
But I'm not looking for a pro.
You're not looking for a pro, no, or an XL.
Yeah, maybe. I want a little more spontaneity.
Yes,
I want to be surprised. I want to be surprised by my Super Soaker.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, it doesn't work currently, and I think that there is actually a busted pressure seal on it, so I might have to. And so one day I might open it up and try and replace it. But I have so many Super Soakers right now that I don't even worry about it.
Well, you could 3D print it.
And maybe it depends. But the local Goodwill, you generally have some great Super Soakers between like the months of March and June. So you just got to look then.
I see.
Yeah. I always keep my eye open because you get good super, like even the smaller ones are fantastic to use in the summertime. And if you have little kids, dogs, or just other people you want to shoot with water guns. But anyway, we're on a tangent, right?
For dogs, I just think the hose is enough.
Yeah, the dogs. My dog
Dog-
hates the hose.
Really? Wow, that's I mean,
My
that's
dog's
unfortunate.
he's he's a beagle. He's not a wiener dog, but he's more of a wiener beagle. So
I see. Yeah, because I mean, all the dogs I've ever had fucking love the hose.
Yeah.
I couldn't get it. I couldn't get enough of the hose. I'd be trying to do like actual stuff in the yard, like using the hose for its intended purpose, and there would be no shot if one of my dogs came out and be like, "Nope, it's my time with the hose now."
yeah, there you go. So on the notion of the price raise, if you really are like tired and fed up with it, just go to get a 3D printer. You can get a Mars Elegoo for less than $200, and it will literally print out any model that you want.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, just if it's, I don't know. It just this seems like like I said, they do this every fucking year, so people getting outraged about it now is just stupid.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm actually going to on the 3D printing forum that we have on our Discord, or whatever they call them, sub Discords. What do they call those things?
Channels
On our Discord channel. One of the Discord channels we're going to have. I'm going to put up some of the big. I'm going to start going through and finding the 3D printing stuff that really impressed me for the month. I'm going to start doing like a month in review on there.
Oh, nice.
Like these are the ones that I was like, these are fucking fantastic.
Speaking of the Discord and Discord channels, I'm brewing up a Total War 3 multiplayer campaign.
Ooh.
Yeah, I made a channel for it. Right now Damas is obviously interested, but there's an open invitation. Obviously there are 8 possible slots, so we've got two filled already, but anyone who wants to play, just post in the Discord. You can post in the Total War channel, the Immortal Empires campaign in there. I still need to figure out how it's going to exactly work, because they did some big changes with this one, which I think will actually end up working better. It's not quite turn-based. It's really weird. So like all the human beings in the game take all the human beings, real human beings, they take their turn at the same time now. And that all plays out in like real time. So like you do all your moves, everyone's doing the moves at the same time. And like if someone initiates a fight, there's apparently like a pop-up that shows up where like if you have units involved in the fight, you can join and you can control your units in that player's fight if you want to. Or you can just keep resolving your fight. And then once everyone has spent all their movement, it goes to the computer, and then the computer takes all their turns. Then it goes back to all of the players taking their turns at once. So as long as we're all together at the same time playing, and it's looking like it's probably going to be like around 1 p.m. Central would be the time, because that's 7 p.m. for the UK, and presumably around there for most of Europe. I think most of Europe's in the same time zone as the UK, or is like an hour ahead maybe, because they're all geographically close. So that's the idea. And then what we would do is probably just play on weekend days. So Saturday, Sunday. Obviously I can't play at 1 o'clock on a weekday because it's, middle of work.
You have to get up for work the next day. Yeah.
I have to be, no, it's 1 p.m. 1 p.m.
Oh, 1 p.m. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. 1 p.m. But, so I'm working at that time, during the week. But yeah, no, it should work out pretty well, I think. And just, figure it out. But yeah, I want to see, I want to gauge everyone's interest, and then I'll post a start date, and then we'll just give it a shot there. I mean, and anyone's welcome to join. I own all 3 games, so I will host. You do not need to own all 3 games to play. You only need all 3 games to host.
But you do need a computer that won't explode as soon as they load Total War 3.
That is true. You will need a computer that does not explode the moment it loads Total War 3. But yeah, if you have.
Or the computer that when you put on Total War 3, you click it and the computer goes, why? Why was I programmed to feel pain?
Why was I programmed to feel pain? Yeah, but if you just have Total War 3, or if you just pick up Total War 3, you can participate in the campaign, because I own all 3 games, so you can join in with just the 1 game. So that's gonna be fun. It should be a good time.
That's fun.
Yeah, I figure we'll probably just do co-op for the first time, and then just because that's easier. It's also easier to manage with fights too, because if we're doing versus, we won't have to wait for multiple people to finish their games against one another. Because if everyone's co-oping, it's a lot more. It should be a lot faster. But we'll see. I mean, we'll see how it ends up playing out.
Yeah. Um, so also with our community that we are gradually building on the Discord, even though we only have like 40 people on there, it's still pretty good. It's like 40 people who are relatively active.
Yeah, I mean
Um,
that's a big Discord.
yeah, it's getting bigger. Just like my addiction to furry porn. Um,
Is it an addiction? I thought it was just being really enthusiastic.
there's a fine line between addiction and enthusiasm, Steve.
I see.
Yes. This wasn't actually on our Discord. This was on our Facebook page, which was unusual now because I love not having to check my Facebook page. It's so nice. But someone was asking about bases for minis.
Yeah, no, I remember this. Yes.
Yeah. It was Mark Buckingham, a longtime listener of ours. And I think he was taken aback by the fact that I said that I based my tanks because a lot of people do not like basing vehicles.
Well, the question I believe was why do all miniatures need to be on a base?
Yes.
I think that was the thing, and I stipulated that in my opinion, I'm interested to hear your stance, but in my opinion, it's only wargaming miniatures that adhere to that rule for me.
Yeah, I mean, you are correct in most stances. So basing for minis, let's cut out the obvious thing. If it has a slot on there, like all minis, if it has a slot, you need a base because the mini won't stand on its own.
Right, of course.
So that's just the basics of like, well, you need a base if the mini can't stand on its own. There's very few companies nowadays that actually produce non-base, non-slot miniatures. Like like old school non-slot miniatures that come with the base cast with the mini. It's very rare. You have to go find like the old Ral Partha sculpts.
Mm-hmm.
I can't think of too many more that do that.
Reaper still does slot minis too.
Well, they do slotted minis, yeah, but they don't do like pre-slotta. They don't do like the ones with the cast base attached to it.
Oh yeah, no.
Sometimes, very, very rarely, and it's mostly diorama based. So it'll be like a pile of gold coins that you attach a dragon to, kind of thing.
Right.
So 99% of the time with minis nowadays, you have to have a base with it. They're supplied with it. They're plastic or resin. It doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. I think the main reason why minis should be based, and it doesn't even have to always be like I'm not sure if Mark is talking like it has to be based as in like with quotation marks where you have to put like the sand and
no. He means on a base.
Yeah, that's what I'm kind of assuming because basing a miniature, that was weird.
Miniature.
I'm kind of used to just slurring it and going miniature.
Or saying mini.
Mini, yeah. When basing him, that was weird. I gotta stop getting high during this podcast.
Or get higher.
Get higher. No, because I've done that.
Can we get much higher?
Give me a higher love.
Give me a higher love. Oh. Now we're shopping at 2 a.m. at the Jewel.
The Jewel.
Give me a higher love. Oh.
So there's a couple different types of bases, and when you're basing a miniature, it doesn't really matter. But so when you're actually basing the figure for RPGs, I know a lot of people still like the the clear bases, like the little discs.
Yeah, those are kind of neat, especially if you use a lot of the printed battle mats.
Yeah, that is about the only time I'm really okay with the clear bases. So for me, the idea of the base has to be a neutral element for your figure, so it draws the attention to the figure itself. Especially if you're doing a non-based with quotation marks, that means non-sanded, non-painted, no tufts, no little terrain details. If it's a strict black base, it is there to be neutral so that your figure will pop more. And that's why black works so much better than like a brown base or a green base, like it used to be back in the day.
Oh man, I'm like, since I'm probably going to do Tomb Kings, I won't do it because they would look really stupid. But man, the old world, I have a hankering to do the goblin green and golden yellow dry brush so bad.
Yeah, I was, and we could talk about that in a minute because I do have some thoughts on that. But yeah, the thing it goes to is and almost since everything is based at this point with few exceptions, right? Like the tanks are generally not based by GW.
Which is wrong. They should have bases.
Yeah, and my reason for that is that it's a height issue. If all your figures have about a 3 to 5 millimeter height difference between the ground and the actual start of the figure, and your tanks don't have that, so your tanks look smaller than they should. Now,
Well, then it's a consistency issue because some
Yeah.
tanks do have bases. Like flying tanks have bases. Walkers have bases, and
yes, but it's only like the big treaded stuff doesn't have bases, because even the orc vehicles, like the trucks now have bases. Some of the
Yes.
trucks have
Yes.
bases. So
and
yeah,
they look
it's
great.
Yeah, it's a consistency thing for me. Like all the stuff should be the proper height, and it should be based on there. Like even my Spartan Land Raider, which is one of the biggest ground tanks that you could get for 40K or 30K, is based because I refuse to not base it.
Mhm.
My Thunderhawk that I'm working on right now will have a base. It's a flying base, but it's still a base.
Right, it's still a base.
Yes. So that's kind of why all minis should be based, is one, for consistency, and two, because in this day and age, minis are made to be based. They are not made to be separate. And as I said earlier, the only time you don't need to have a base is if it is a pre-slata with the base already cast onto it. So an old Ral Partha, the old Reaper stuff. Maybe if you find some old Harlequin stuff, but I even think those were slata. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, for me, it's the same issue of consistency, but it's less about visual and more about gaming piece, because everything is supposed to be a gaming piece, and tanks are weird shapes. I much prefer a standardized, like universal, this is the size of a vehicle, this is the base of a vehicle. Also for melee, like you in base to base with it. That's something too, like, are you in base to base with a tank to do, to throw your grenades or that kind of shit? Like, where's its base? How can you say it's, if there's no base, how can it be base to base?
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't think about it from the gaming component.
Yeah, for me, it's the gaming component. Also, measuring. It gives you a nice static point to measure from where the model is, which all the other models adhere to. So it's very weird. It's very weird mouthfeel to me to have.
Don't say mouth.
I said it specifically because I knew you didn't want me to. To very specifically, like, you're measuring from all of your other figures, you measure from their base, and then tanks, you just measure from some part of the tank. Stupid. I want a base on it, so everything is measured from the same spot. So that, to me, it's gaming piece consistency. That's why I stipulated in my reply that I strictly do mean miniatures gaming pieces. If it's not a miniatures gaming piece, do whatever. As long as it stands up, don't care.
Okay, I see that, but I like your idea from the miniatures gaming piece, because that's what really attracted a lot of people to Warma Hordes, was the fact that everything is on a standard. So you don't even have to play with the minis. You could have like literal cardboard cutouts, and you can play the game.
Yes, and Kings of War is the same way too, because Kings of War is kind of like, Kings of War has like essentially giant bases for all intents and purposes.
Yeah. I was playing 30K with Dwayne the other day, just to get a couple games in before Adepticon.
The Soul Deck.
Yes, and we were playing, and what made me laugh was it was like, because the game is true line of sight, like all Warhammer games, and we were wondering about. We're so used to playing games that are like really complicated true line of sight, like bolt action, and we're like, okay, so does intervening terrain affect anything? And it's like, well, only if it's like a quarter of the model is covered, like sort of thing, and they get a 6+ armor save, and we're like, okay, so we could fucking skip most of this shit. We don't need this. Which was actually kind of nice. I like the idea of less tactical, more shooty.
Yes, I agree. That's why I've been a big fan of the AOS line of sight too, where it's just pretty much, I was like, yeah, can you see it? Yeah, it's really not that big of a deal.
Oh, so you like the AOS system, huh?
I do.
So you're gonna love 40K 10th edition.
Am I? I mean, if 40K 10th becomes more like AOS, that's a positive thing.
So I mean, that was a fun transition, so I think I can go into it. So we've been talking for a while. I think it was since the release of the Votann book about the new edition of 40K. What it's going to be out, when it's coming out. So the rumor is late June, which is what I said.
Yes.
So if it's going to be a late June release, that means that it's probably going to be announced at Adepticon next month, when they do their big 40K night, their big presentation.
Yes.
show off everything. So that's going to be the big thing. And it makes sense because if you launch it in March or launch the preview in March, then you got April and May to kind of show off all the new stuff. And then June, when it launches at the end of June, it's just going to be the main box set with the rules.
Yes.
And then there'll be more stuff coming out with it. But they'll give you April and May to kind of build your armies up, figure out what's different and why you have to buy a whole complete new army because everything that you own is useless.
We love it. We love to see it.
The rumor is that the launch box is going to have Space Marines, of course, and Tyranids. So it's back to the Battle for Macragge, Steve.
Oh, Battle for Macragge.
Yes. However, it's not going to be the Ultramarines. It's going to be the Dark Angels.
The Dangles.
Which is funny because when I saw all of these rumors dropping for the first time on GW's official Facebook page and Instagram, I don't know if this was intentional or they were just trolling everybody. They immediately the next day was posted a thing like, show us your Dark Angels. And there was like a bunch of stuff about the Dark Angels. So that made me laugh quite a bit.
That's funny. That's kind of annoying though, because the Dark Angels were already in a starter. They were in a pretty good starter too, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, Dark Vengeance.
Yeah. That was a good starter.
It was a very good starter. I have all those figures still, and I was going to use them in case I ever did a 30K Dark Angels army because
I would
play 40K.
I would really like to see so here's the thing. Like, I don't care if they're doing Marines in every starter. Like, I mean, that makes sense. People like, no matter what anyone says, Marines are the most, they're the most selling and most played army by like a bajillion miles. So like, you can bitch about it all you want, but I mean, the Marines are here to stay in the starters.
What about my Xenos?
Which is fine. Like, and that's exactly my point. Like, I think every edition should just have a different chapter as the highlighted chapter, and a different Xenos in the box set. So like, if they're doing Tyranids, it's a little annoying to me that they're doing Dark Angels again when they could do, I don't know, White Scars, Imperial Fists, Iron Hands. Yeah, Space Wolves would be a baller. That'd be
Space
a baller.
Wolves have never gotten a starter. Blood Angels have never gotten a starter.
No, Blood Angels they were second edition.
Oh yeah, that's right. Oh wow, way to pull me back.
Yeah. Yeah. So no, Space Wolves versus Tyranids would have been a baller starter choice.
I mean, they were just on the starter. They were just in the art.
But I mean, they were on the box art, which I mean, for many editions, that was the only thing that was distinct about
No, because third edition was Black Templars then.
Right. They had no special pieces. They were just on the box art.
Yeah. And then it was fourth was the Ultramarines. Fourth and fifth were both Ultramarines because it was Macragge and Blackfire Pass.
Yes, yeah. I remember fourth was Macragge with the Gene Stealers.
Yes. No, not Gene Stealers. Those were Gaunts.
Was it Gaunts? I thought they had Gene.
Oh no, there was some Gene Stealers in there. Yeah, there was a couple. Yeah.
Yeah, it was
Gaunts and Gene Stealers.
Yeah, and then Black Reach was Orcs versus
Black Reach, not Blackfire Pass. That was Dwarves.
Yes, that was Dwarves versus Gabos.
Yeah, those were the Orcs. That was a really great set.
It was the orc models in there were nice, and that was the only place you could get those orc copters for a really long time.
I think you can still get the orc copters from.
You might be right. I don't know.
Yeah, that was a fantastic box set. Oh god, I love that set.
Came with a Dreadnought, some Terminators. Yeah, it was a very solid box set.
It's just too bad that the orcs were and always have been terrible.
There was one brief moment where using a weird and obscure rules interaction, orcs were top tier. There was that brief moment in time
until GW discovered that, and they were like, "Oh, we can't have that."
Yeah, they were like, "We're gonna get rid of that."
Can't have orcs do well. I'm off to eat a pasty.
Pasties.
I'm off to eat a broth. Whatever crap. It's like, what's that? Jellied eels in a pie.
I'll pass on the jelly deals.
Yeah, me too.
I'll also pass on the dirt fish for our Scandinavian listeners. I don't want your dirt fish either.
And Steve and I are relatively adventurous eaters.
I am.
Steve is a non-meat eater at the current time, but it's not like if presented with something unique and interesting, he wouldn't poo-poo it.
Yeah, I mean, I love natto. I love kimchi. I generally like pickled stuff. I'm generally a fan of fermented stuff.
Yeah. I will not eat the jellied eel.
Yeah, I will not eat the jellied eel. I won't eat aspic, and I won't eat the dirt fish. I'll pass on those.
I mean, aspic is pretty neutral. It's not like anything crazy. It's in Jellos.
It's because you know what, the growth. So the grossest thing about aspic is like just what people use it for. Like it just looks so
Yeah, I mean,
horrifying.
it's not like it's something it's pretty. It's not like I want to eat like a straight aspic, but it's generally just
Yeah, I don't want to eat a shrimp, tomato, and basil aspic. Okay,
well, now you're just being ridiculous.
it's I'm not being ridiculous. There's a recipe for it. If you Google aspic, it's like the third result.
You don't know. Okay. So anyway, we're gonna have to end soon, but not too soon. So the 40K, back to the rumor stuff. Back to the rumor stuff.
Yes.
So yes, the reason why they're doing Dark Angels though is because apparently it's gonna be all about Lionel Johnson coming back.
Lino Johnson.
Lino Johnson. Line Big Johnson.
Snarf.
Remember Big Johnson's the shirt?
I do remember Big Johnson. I had to turn my Big Johnson shirts inside out twice.
Yes. So I think we should, for Adepticon, maybe next year we'll have Big Johnson's Dark Angels.
Ooh,
We'll get a
I like that.
Big Johnson's Dark Angels shirt, and we'll have like the little nerdy guy in power armor with like a huge cock.
I like it. You have him in. You got to do it. You got to do it authentic. So what you need to do is you need to have the nerdy guy in power armor and holding a gigantic sword right on his groin.
Yes. Okay.
Yes, because Big Johnson shirts were always a phallic object.
Yes. I'm actually looking for one right now that I'm gonna put up on our page.
Nice.
For our Discord.
Nice.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm gonna do one too.
I gotta find here we go. Big Johnson's pup tents. When you're going deep in the bush, it pays to have a Big Johnson.
Nice. I'll send one too. I got the Big Johnson bait check. You won't need to be a master baiter when she sees the size of your Johnson.
So stupid.
I'm gonna slap that in as well. The most horrifying thing about all this is that it turns out Big Johnson brand still available for purchase.
Yeah, so we got to come up with Big Johnson's 40K.
Yeah, we do need to come up with Big Johnson's 40K.
Oh man, I'm hoping that there already isn't that, because I thought of that this morning when I was reading all of the rumors.
I just slapped that in the general.
Yes. Oh, I put it in the I'll put it in the general as well. I was gonna put it in shit posting, but
I think when we do our cast thing, the previews are good to just stick in general because people will be like, "What the fuck?"
yes, yeah, exactly. Like just like weird shit that we're talking about.
Yeah, just because then the general people are like, "Wait, why is this here?" Make it cast related. I like it.
So rumor wise, apparently they're streaming down the core rules again. It got too bloated with the last edition, which I agree with, and I think that's what most people kind of
everyone agreed.
Like the rules bloat got real bad in 9th edition. Yeah. 8th edition started off really. I just remember people started off with 8th edition saying like, "This is fantastic. This is exactly how I want my rules to be." They did great. And then by the time 9th edition rolled out Arcs of Omen, people were like, "Fuck this!"
Yeah, too much. That's the problem with I don't know why they made that design choice with 40K, because they didn't do that with Sigmar. Like Sigmar has, and I told people it's like Sigmar is a quote unquote complicated game with a quote unquote lot of rules, but it's kind of fake because it doesn't add a lot of universal rules. Like you might like your new unit has a bunch of rules that is its own thing, but it's not actually adding a rule to the game that people need to remember because the only thing that it applies to is that one unit.
Yes, and that's the great thing about AOS, and that's actually something I wanted to touch on, was that AOS, even though I don't like AOS, I've gotten out of AOS, I've dumped almost all my stuff. But what I don't like about the game, and what I like about the game, is that you really only need the core set in your own book.
Yes.
There's no like supplemental stuff, like General's Compendium probably.
Yeah, the General's Compendium is useful mostly because it'll have the tournament scenarios, and then the General's Compendium is what updates the universal rules, and there's usually only a couple. So the only thing that changes universal rules in that game is the General's Compendium.
Yeah. So, and that's kind of what we're looking at in terms of like, so you only have those books. You only have to memorize the main core rules and your army's rules. So, and I think this is hard for a lot of old school players like myself, you, and a lot of others probably who are listening, is that we're so used to having to memorize every army book. so that way we could play against people. Like, I don't think that's quite how the Black Rage works.
Yes.
They're like, well, yeah, it does. It says this in the rulebook. I've read your rulebook, sir. I don't think that's how it works.
I've read your rules, sir.
You are wrong. So that's kind of like what I'm looking at in terms of that. So, but in 40K, it's always generally devolved into you have the main rulebook, you have your rulebook, you have to buy like some special scenario book that came out because it's the only one that has rules for flyers.
Yes.
And then you have to buy a supplemental rule book because your rule book didn't have this unit when it came out, and now this unit's out and you want to play with this unit. And then you have to have the campaign book because the campaign books have the rules for boarding scenarios, and you're like, Jesus Christ.
Yes.
Yeah. So I think if a game can get down to a game should be max 3 rule books, universal, army, and then it should be
supplemental. We'll call it supplemental, but only one supplemental at a time, which is what the AOS General's Handbook is. Because when the new General's Handbook comes out, you don't need to know anything that's in the old General's Handbook.
Yeah.
Literally, it's a replacement. So old General's Handbook, toss it in the recycling bin.
Yep. And it's actually kind of true because you can find those old General's Handbooks everywhere for dollars.
Yeah, I mean, throw it in the recycling bin. You don't need them. Like, just recycle them. They're paper.
They're paper. Okay, so yes, so apparently they're going to stream down the core rules again, and one of the things that they're going to get rid of is toughness.
Okay.
So it's kind of going to what
AOS
did.
Yeah.
So now it's just like one roll as opposed to multiple rolls on the same turn.
Okay. I mean, that's good. Is there any credence to the rumors of alternating activations?
Probably not.
Okay.
I have not seen that. I don't think that GW will ever get away from that from 40K. I think it's too much ingrained in the design choices of 40K to go alternating activation.
That's a shame.
Kind of is. I think that's just part of it at this point. And in playing, like going back and prepping for Adepticon, I've gone back to an alternating activation system. A non-alternating activation system. I don't mind it as much. I feel it's quick. I feel like with the new rule sets the way that they are, it's faster than it's been. Honestly,
AOS doesn't have alternating and it works fine. But I think the issue with the non-alternating activation system, you could actually solve by using, ironically enough, the alpha. You can solve the Alpha Strike 40K problem by ironically using the Alpha Strike BattleTech rules for shooting. Because the way shooting works in BattleTech is, so you do initiative just like in 40K, whatever. But and BattleTech is alternating activations for movement, but shooting, which is where the problem rises for 40K. The way BattleTech works is if I have one initiative, you perform all of your shooting first, then I perform all of my shooting, which is advantageous because I know how your shooting went, so I can react to your shooting. And then after all of the shooting is done, then you apply the results of the shooting.
Yes.
So if you shoot your 30 Space Marines at my 30 orcs and you wipe out my orc squad, I still shoot back with the orcs, because then at the end of the shooting phase, we apply it. So my orcs die, but my orcs have a chance to shoot back at your Space Marines before they're just wiped off the table.
Yeah, it's pretty much that the shooting happens simultaneously.
Yes, which that needs to be the biggest change, because that's the biggest problem with 40K is like, your opponent deep strikes, they get one hot turn, blow up 30% of your army. The game's over. Like you can't beat, the numbers are going to end the game for you, because when you shoot back, you're shooting with 70% of your army at 100% of your opponents. Even if you roll well and destroy 15% of his army, the next time he shoots, it snowballs like instantly.
Okay, we got to end right here.
All right. And now back to the show.
Yeah. Hold on. That's weird.
I did hear the recording in progress.
It did, but I didn't get my... Oh, no, it's working. Okay. Sorry.
Okay.
I normally so behind the scenes, if I still keep this in the podcast, I normally get a little pop-up after I close out one that says convert meeting recording, so that way I can put it up on the internet. And it didn't pop up right away, and I got worried.
I see.
Yeah, so we just keep that in mind.
Very good.
So we were talking about the shooting. 30K does really good with reactions. So every turn, every shooting phase, if you shoot at a unit, the unit has a chance to react. You get one reaction per phase. Sometimes you can get multiple reactions depending upon, specific things that you're adding to your army. You can have up to 3 reactions per phase.
Okay.
And that's if like you have the base one, which you get, and then there's sometimes you get it for like characters or specific units get specific reactions and phases. So most of the time it's like you get that one where you're like, okay, I know that this block of 20 Space Marines is going to shoot at this block of 5 Space Marines. I will use my reaction on these guys as opposed to the 5-man unit that's going to shoot at this 20-man unit.
Okay. Yeah, I mean that would also be acceptable to help with the issue with 40K.
Yeah, and it's like you get multiple types of reactions. Like you could go down, you could do this, you could do that. It's pretty fun, especially in smaller point games. Like 2,000 point games is where it becomes like a fun chancy thing, like to figure out what to do. So I mean that's a way of solving the issue. But either way, it doesn't really matter. The toughness thing going away, I think, is interesting because I don't know. I kind of like the chunkiness of toughness rolls. I just like the idea. It's not necessarily the toughness that's the problem. It's a game where you're not pulling enough figures off the board quickly enough.
Right.
So if your games become a slog, then it's a problem.
Yes, absolutely.
So
I mean,
the armor state and all that stuff. Yeah.
It also makes sense because 30K is such a popular game. It really makes sense to just further the distinction between the two systems.
It does. You're correct. I like, and it's like, let's have 30K, which is a game about the past, be more like an older game.
Yeah. No, it makes sense.
So they're still keeping detachments, stratagems, and command points. I guess it's popular enough that people are keeping it. And that's where I think 8th and 9th got too problematic, was with the they just
too many of those fucking things.
What's that?
Too many of those fucking things.
There's too many of them. I don't think that they played them enough. Some are like way overpowered.
Yeah.
And I think that that's where a lot of the books came in, and a lot of the stuff, like, it's like, well, if you want to play this, you have to have this, this, and this.
Yes.
Yeah, but apparently from what I hear is that much like Age of Sigmar, 40K is going to go into more terrain-based stuff.
Okay.
So that's going to be interesting. I never like playing with terrain that has like very specific rules, unless it's like one piece that you're playing a very specific scenario around.
I love those generic like modifier rules in AOS. They let you discover or what is it called? Oh shit, it's a buzzword from video games. It's not immersive. Shit, I can't remember. But basically, like, it changes the scenario, and suddenly like things that you wouldn't think become important.
So
and,
like that sounds like a Hallmark movie for Christmas. It's like when you discover things that aren't important are
yes.
Warhammer for Christmas.
Yeah, it feels more like procedural gameplay, because it's just like, oh shit, this is cool now. Like, yeah, dong dong. Dun, dun. Yeah, so I mean that's been pretty fun, and I like that. And suddenly it's like, oh, this stupid hill that would normally be something that we completely ignore because it's just kind of like out of the way. Oh, it buffs casters, so now it's actually important. So suddenly the fight becomes about that hill.
Running up that hill.
Emergent gameplay.
Emergent.
Yes, there's emergent gameplay with the AOS terrain stuff, which I really like. And also, like,
I got a turret that's emergent.
Whoa. And like, it's like, oh, the center mass, like, big terrain feature is deadly now. So suddenly, like, something that would have not really mattered is like, oh shit, do I actually want to run through this? What do I want to run through this and risk losing my troops? It's pretty fun.
I don't know. I just always feel like terrain in general just kind of feels like a cheap way of making a buck. So it just I don't. It's fine though. I like whatever. I'm not going to play 40K, so more power to them. One of the things that is I think is kind of sad from what I hear is that GW is retiring the texture paint range,
which is an outrage.
I absolutely. I think it's mainly because that the textures, the technicals are not super shelf stable. Like they're better than they should be, but if you don't use it after you open it, it's done in like 3 months.
That sounds like the least likely reason that Games Workshop would cancel it.
Yeah, I mean, you are correct, sir.
No,
I'm
they,
just saying in terms of-
they designed a paint lid in the early 2000s to literally dry out your paints.
yeah. But apparently they are replacing it with something, but it's what it is. We don't know what it be.
I mean, maybe it'll just be a reformulated texture paint.
It could
Something new.
be. I really think that their crackle paint, like their style,
Love
crackle
their
paint,
crackle paint. It's so good.
it's so good. I wish that they had more colors for the crackle paint. They mostly, most of the time, like the textured paint, with the sand in it. I don't like it. I don't like it that much.
Mhm.
And I think that you could get better stuff from like AK paints. I think that those are like what I consider to be kind of the pinnacle of what I'm looking for in terms of that. Like you get a big tub and you can just scoop it out and plop it on the base and you're fine.
Yeah, and I'll likely end up swapping to that if they don't replace the texture paints. Seems like
Yeah.
an easy lateral move.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm seeing on that one. It depends. Like as I've gotten older, I've gotten better with basing and better at determining what I want my basing to do. So
Mhm.
I go in with a very specific idea. I spend probably a full day of kind of like painting to figure out what the base for my models is going to be, because it has to be something that I want to do and
Right.
something that I can easily reproduce. So
Right.
yeah, that's kind of what I'm looking for on that. But anyway, oh shit, sorry, the podcast finished converting.
Oh, okay, very good.
What we were talking about earlier.
I am now almost up to date on The Last of Us. I haven't watched
Ooh.
episode 4 yet.
Yeah, well, episode 3 is the only one you need to. Oh shit, that's good they bring that up because that was something I wanted to get back to. Let me finish up with what we're talking about here with the
Sure.
new edition because I'm almost done with it. And apparently the new texture paint is supposed to be somewhat similar to Contrast, where it's like you put it on and you're done. Like that's it, you're based.
Okay.
So what they're looking to do is Contrast, so you could slap chop your figure and make it look terrible. And then you can put it on a slap chop base now, so your basing looks terrible too, Steve.
I like that slap chop makes you mad.
I mean, like the two words in painting that, well, I shouldn't say two words. The two things in painting that really piss me off is when people talk about slap chop. And I think the other one is when I hear army painter and anybody's talking about army painter, because I immediately in my head just go, you could just use a paint that's not shitty.
I'm going to slap chop these figures and get them up with the army painter.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to slap chop these figures with army painter contrasts.
Speaking of which,
my figures are ruined. What?
The new metallic speed paints look pretty nice. I was kind of surprised.
Is that
surprised by those.
army painter that's doing those?
It is. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've never seen it before, so I was like, they look pretty good. So we'll see.
Yeah, I'll press X for doubt. So
like I said, I talked in the Discord, like the way I used them, the reactivation issue never occurred to me. So that's why I was like, what the fuck is everyone talking about? And it's like, oh, if you paint directly on top of it, yeah, that's a problem. But I always did washes or seals over my speed paint, so I never had a reactivation issue. So I'm like, why is everyone talking about these paints reactivating?
that's what I want to do with my speed paint is add extra steps to painting.
Yeah.
Okay, so Last of Us. So last podcast, I didn't complain. I was talking about the idea of copying straight from a video game.
Yes.
And like, is that something? And then literally that night or a day later, Last of Us did episode 3, and it was like the greatest moment of television of all time.
It was really, really fucking amazing.
Completely different than the game. And I love that the love for that episode really drowned out all the people complaining about how different it was from the game, which made me happy.
Yeah, it was fantastic.
Because that's the problem, and that's what you're seeing for everybody when they're talking about how this is the greatest video game adaptation of all time, is they're saying that because the gamers are saying that because it's literally a one-for-one rip of the game.
I mean, I found so like it's the same characters that were in the video game.
Yes.
Just the scenario plays out slightly differently, and in my opinion is vastly improved.
I don't think it plays out little. There's not a variation. There's a huge difference between that and the game.
Well, no, the characters are the same. Like
Yes, the characters are the same, but yeah, the scenario
Yes,
that plays
the
out
scenario that
is
plays out
different.
is vastly different, and it's far superior. The show version is far superior than the video game version.
Yeah,
And it's like it's not even close.
because video game fans are sitting there going like, he needs to go back to Bill every every few moments to get so he can get a new gun or something like that. We have these fun moments. It's like, no, not gonna have that.
Yeah, it makes way more sense in terms of narrative to like Bill. So that's a really good. I think that's actually an extremely good point too, is because the way that Bill exists in the video game simply makes more sense from a video game perspective.
Exactly.
Not from a narrative perspective. From a narrative perspective, the TV show is absolutely perfect. It's far better.
Yeah.
Because
I mean,
it'd be stupid to have the character go back to the character over and over, like, hey, I gotta upgrade my guns.
Exactly. But that's what people want, Steve. That's what they want.
Oh yeah, we'll pass on that.
It's like it's like you could tell people whose narrative style is based off video games, especially in movies, because you're watching a movie and you're like, why is Wolverine fighting mini bosses? Oh, this is written by a person who plays video games.
Yes.
Okay, this makes sense.
It's funny. The only thing that was like, and this isn't a negative comment, this is just like a thing that I noticed, is like the one thing that was bugging me, and I couldn't figure out why, was Ellie, the actress who's playing Ellie.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what the? I'm like, why is this actress bugging me? Like, what is going on? Like, I couldn't figure out what my issue was, and then I finally figured. I felt like an idiot. I finally figured out. I was like, oh, she's from Game of Thrones.
Yeah. That's she played the Mormont girl.
Mormont, yeah, she played the little girl, the bear girl, and I was like,
Yeah.
oh, okay.
And you don't
All
like
right.
her?
No, she's great.
You said it was bugging you, and I was
Yes,
like,
something was bugging me, and I couldn't figure out what was bothering me. I'm like, why is something bothering me about this actress? Because I was like, do I know this actress? But she looks familiar, but I couldn't place her, so it was bugging the crap out of me until I finally figured out. I was like, I know her face from Game of Thrones. No, she's great. All the actors are great. I have literally zero complaints with The Last of Us so far.
Yeah, I was actually thinking about it. It would be funny if they had actually gotten Ashley Johnson, because even though she's 40 years old, she still looks like she's probably like 15. I love Ashley Johnson. She's just like one of those people who kind of found their niche and just goes with it.
Yes.
Yeah, the fact that
Growing Pains, right?
yeah, she was from Growing. Well, she's on Vox Machina now.
Okay.
She does all the Vox Machina stuff. But she's a voice actress, but it's like the fact that she kind of looks and sounds like she's 15
This is true.
is part of it. Or she can look 15. I know she doesn't necessarily always look 15, but
Right.
yes. But yeah, the Vox Machina stuff is that's where most people probably know her from nowadays. So they could probably just throw her in there as a 40-year-old, 15-year-old. And even all the video game fans, well, I should say all the video game fans, well, they would be, because she was the original voice of Ellie. But the all of the Vox Machina fans would be like, oh, she's in there now. We have to watch this. Because one of the I don't know, third or fourth most toxic fan groups, probably. I don't know. I'm just.
Can we really tier the toxic fan groups? I think you could just say, like, once insert fan group gets big enough, it just becomes toxic, because it's the 5% rule.
5% rule.
Yeah, there's like like some dude actually like postulated like an actual like mathematical number of how many people are shitbags, and then the bigger the community gets, the more people it seems are shitbags, because that 5% starts getting bigger. Because 5% of 10 people is like nobody, but 5% of 10 million people is an actual fuckload of human beings.
Yes.
So that's what it is. So it's not necessarily like each fandom being shitty. It's just that the fandom gets large enough to where you really see that 5% come to the forefront.
Yes, it's the difference between out of 100 people, 5% is 5 people, but out of 1,000 people, that becomes 50 people.
Right, exactly. It's a mathematical issue
Called magnitude. Pop.
Yes, there's a force multiplier of shitbaggery, because you got the force multiplier of shitbaggery is the internet and social media.
I think we're just going to start doing that whenever people are talking about 40K in front of me. I go, oh, that's great. What's the Force magnifier? Yeah, the Force magnifier. Isn't that in the new edition?
I like it.
Just start making up rules for the new edition of 40K. Just
Ooh, that's a good angle. I like that. Be like, no. He's got threes. What do you mean he's got threes? He's got
it's a good
threes.
angle, as opposed to a bad angle, which is the Kurt angle.
That's true.
Yes. I was watching.
He cross-faced crippled his family.
I didn't want to go.
Oh no, that was never mind. That was Chris Benoit.
Yeah, it's Chris Benoit. No, I was gonna say. I was watching I think it was 92 or 93 Royal Rumble on YouTube,
Mm-hmm.
and it was so great just to see all these old timey wrestlers come out with their mullets and like their big fat torso, not fat but like round torsos, like a cylindrical torsos.
They all had huge torsos because they all, a lot of them had power lifter bodies because that's basically what they did.
Well, yeah, but then they came out and they're like these massive, huge, and it's like we're watching. Me and my daughter are watching it on TV, and it's because my son really wanted to watch it. And we were watching it, and my daughter's like, they're not even hitting each other. I go, yeah, it doesn't play so well on a 60-inch TV in HD, you know?
Yeah, it was on the tiny little TV in the standard definition. It was quite good.
Yeah, you couldn't see anything. It was like and it's a Royal Rumble, so there's like 10 people in the ring. You don't know what's going on.
Yeah, there's always some good stuff though. One of my favorites is watching the old, not when he was nearing the end of his life, but some of the older Andre the Giant stuff.
Oh yeah,
like that dude's like, so like you don't. A lot of people don't notice it because his most famous matches were, like I said, near the end of his life, so he was losing his physicality because his body was fucking destroying itself. But in his early wrestling days, that guy was incredible. Like his athleticism for his size, absolutely ridiculous. Like that was one of the things that was like so appealing about him as a wrestler. It was just like, I can't believe a guy that big can move like this. It was insane.
Oh yeah. Yeah, you could, and that's great. Like I'm happy that a lot of those are on YouTube. I got to find out if there's like an ad blocker thing that I could put onto my Fire Stick, because Jesus Christ, YouTube is ridiculous with the ads.
Oh yeah, I pay for YouTube Premium because I use the YouTube Music all the time, so it works out because you get the music included with the premium on the actual channel, and there's zero ads. There's no like limited ads or anything. It just straight up you get rid of all the ads.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, and like I said, because I use YouTube Music all the time, it's very nice.
Yeah. So what the fuck were we talking about? Oh, The Last of Us, I think it was.
Yes, we were talking about The Last of Us.
Yeah, so I'm actually looking forward to it. I really enjoyed the last episode. Well, I shouldn't say that. I really enjoyed the pacing of the last few episodes, where it's like action, action, action. Then it's like third episode is like this really beautiful character piece. Mm-hmm. Fourth episode is a little more actiony. It's like, keep me at the kind of that pace. Like, give me a couple of action episodes, pull it back, give me something that's really good and different. And then you could go from there.
Yeah. I mean, I really like the idea of like post-apocalyptic character pieces. I think it's kind of awesome.
Yeah. I mean, I'm kind of there with it, like give me a good character piece.
Yeah, it's a lot more interesting because that was always the biggest problem with Walking Dead, is just like, and that's why Walking Dead got boring, because Walking Dead never shifted away from anyone. It was just staring at the same characters over and over. So it just, that's why Walking Dead was able to, just kind of like become so like such a snore fest.
Yeah, you're right. Well, I think also like leaving it to what's it called? Leaving Frank Darabont after the first season was like kind of what sealed it for me. I watched like the first 4 or 5 seasons, and I was just like, I really see why I liked it at the beginning, and then why I don't like it now. Like I see the difference.
Yeah, I mean, I will also say one very important factor about The Walking Dead specifically is, man, is it better on Netflix than it was watching it on TV. Because like if an episode drags, you can just skip it.
Yeah, there is that, and I think that there was a real big burnout, and like you could see the patterns on how they were doing things. It's like when TV shows like that become predictable, there's no point in having it anymore.
Yeah, exactly. Or just like terribly boring. Because that was always that was the one thing that was bugging the crap out of me. Because one of the seasons that got me really on tilt was just like an episode, like an entire episode would happen, and there'd be like one thing that happened the whole fucking episode.
Yeah. Speaking of good new TV, though, I did find a show on Netflix that I really like, and I'm sure most of our UK listeners have probably already seen it because it's a UK show. It's called Kunk on Earth.
Oh, I keep seeing ads for that.
Yes, it's basically a Planet Earth documentary, like a Attenborough documentary, but it's played like almost like, I don't want to say. It's not like a Borat thing because from what I read, the people who are being interviewed know that it's a joke, but they're told to play it straight.
Okay.
But it's pretty fun to watch, and I greatly enjoyed watching the episodes that I've watched. I've only gotten 2 episodes in, but it's definitely a funny show, like one that you have to pay attention to, because if you don't pay attention, the jokes go past you so fast that you don't even know that they're jokes.
Okay, so it's a mockumentary.
It's a mockumentary, yeah.
Okay,
but it's different than most mockumentaries because it's like the interviews are the funniest part, but it's also because I think that the people know that they're in on a joke. It's like what happens when you go and you talk to. Okay. So you might know this, and probably some of our listeners might know this, but if you ever have a like teacher or a professor that's like your favorite professor, right? But they're like so serious about what they're talking about that you could go up there and you make a joke to them, and the joke might hit them weird. So they might not know how to respond to it. Like even if they know you're just joking with them, they just don't know how to respond to it. And that's
nice.
that's the reaction. That's the really fun part.
I'll have to give it a shot. It's called Kunk on Earth.
Yes. I think one of them is like, were these cavemen, were they like us? And then the person's like, well, yes, they had art.
I know that lady. She's had a bunch of viral clips. I've seen her before.
Yeah.
Yeah. She does ridiculously funny interviews. Okay. Yeah.
They're like, yes, they were like us. They had families. They had, society, they had art. And she's like, no, I meant, did they have like eyebrows and feet?
Did you think they had egg laying fetishes?
Yeah, it's shit like that, which is the funny stuff. So I recommend that to listeners. Nice. And I'm sure most of our UK listeners are already pretty familiar because I think it's a BBC show.
Yeah. She's been on a bunch of different things. There's Kunk on Britain, Kunk on Shakespeare. There's a bunch of different Kunk on stuffs.
I want to put my Kunk on you.
I'll pass.
Aww. Aww. All right. So is there any other relatively big news we should talk about?
I don't know how big it is, but the Conquest just debuted another new faction, the Greeks. They call it Conquest, the Last Argument of Kings, that larger
okay.
that larger scale minis game. Yeah, it's been chugging along. It's popular somewhere.
It's popular somewhere.
I mean, it has to be because they didn't do any crowdfunding. They produced the game is done like a classic game. Like they release sets into distribution, people buy it, it's successful, they make more. But yeah, they released the City States, which have some of the dopest looking Minotaurs ever. They are like fucking chonkers. I think they're awesome looking. They look very appropriate to me. They're just thick. They're thick with like 4 C's.
Okay, yeah, those are pretty good looking. They're not great. They're pretty good. I shouldn't say that. They're very good looking. And I'm sure if you want plastic Minotaurs, they're going to be much cheaper than any alternative.
Yeah, they look cool. I like them. I like their hoplites. I think the figures I think they look really neat. Big fan of the designs. Just a cool all around army. So yeah, that's one of the bigger news things. What else is going on?
So Warlord Games announced that they're moving some of their metal figures to resin.
Oh, I'm sure people hate that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's like I do. Okay, so first off, I hate 99% of Warlord sculpts. I take that back. Let's say 70%, because some of their plastics are very, very nice, and they're the non-World War II stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So like they're
I mean, I think they make Knowles for I think Warlord.
They don't do any fantasy stuff.
Oh no, that's Osprey. Never mind.
Yeah. I was gonna say the Osprey stuff that they do for Frostgrave is really nice.
Yeah, I was just about to. Those are the Knolls I was thinking of, but they're Osprey, not Warlord.
Yeah, the Warlord stuff is more about the historical stuff, and like their older stuff is pretty great plastic wise. Their metals and especially the World War II stuff looks fucking terrible.
Mm.
Like almost all of their metal stuff is awful looking, and it's sad, but it is. There's some stuff for their Hail Caesar which is kind of nice, but yeah, so
Hail Kaiser.
they're going to the resin. So yay on that.
That sounds unfortunate.
Yeah, I don't know if it's going to be the whole range or just parts of the range, but whatever.
I mean, I generally hate resin, so but we'll see.
Yeah, it says it's like a new type of resin, and whether or not that means anything is beyond me. So, also there is a new Dead Zone starter set coming out for Mantic,
Good old Mantic.
which okay, you might not like Mantic, but I will tell you the starter set looks fantastic for playing any type of skirmish game, sci-fi skirmish game. So just take a look at it and you're like, oh shit, that's actually like a really nice starter set for like if I play like if I don't want to play the Mantic game, but this would work for any other sci-fi skirmish game really, really well.
Yeah,
It's
there's tons of really cool figures in there. The terrain's cool. The figures are cool. It's got a little vending machine.
that's what I like. I like that it looks more like a what's the word I'm looking for? Not dystopian future, but it looks like a cyberpunk.
It looks like a real sci-fi future.
Yeah, it looks like a cyberpunk kind of terrain, which you don't generally see too much.
Yeah, no, I like it. It looks really solid. I think that'll be fun.
I wonder if Rob Hawkins worked on that. I know he does weird shit like that when people are doing it. I wonder if he did that.
Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure he'll let us know.
This seems likely.
I don't know.
Yeah,
Rob Hawkins might be a little too old for a Discord. He might be like, I'm not learning another process. I'm gonna find some older gamers, the guys that are even older than these two. They won't make me move to a Discord.
I love it.
Yes.
Hey, but you know what? He might be on our Discord. We don't know.
He just doesn't participate. So let's talk about Old World.
Yes, let's talk about Old World. Let's talk about Old World.
Yeah, we'll talk about it briefly before the cast ends. So GW put up another development diary. They talk about the Tomb Kings, which we already knew they were doing, so it's not like it's anything shocking there.
Right, it's not a surprise.
But since we know it's not going to be the big summer release, it's going to be 40K. It could either be a Christmas release or a next summer release.
Yeah.
So next summer, we know that it wouldn't be 40K. We know it won't be Age of Sigmar because they just did that. They just did new editions of both of those.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's been kind of far off for the Age of Sigmar, but I don't think it's enough to do a new edition. I don't think they're
no way. There's no way. It's not even remotely close enough to do a new edition.
It wouldn't be another 30K box set because it'd only be about a year out. Even though there is rumors that a new 30K two-player box set's going to come out soon, that's not going to be as big as the Age of Darkness box set. But I don't know. We'll see on that one. But it could just, I think that might just be the same one, but they'll take out the Terminators and the Spartan, and they'll just have a Dreadnought and 40 Marines in there probably. So you can play, yeah. Maybe they might throw in another Dreadnought, so you'll have 20 Marines and a Dreadnought versus 20 Marines and a Dreadnought, which would be pretty fun actually.
Yeah,
that actually would be a great starter set. But they showed the development diary for Old World with Tomb Kings. I am now convinced they will be putting out all of the old plastics, and the armies will be made out of the plastics. So anything that was resin or metal,
old plastics, you think?
What's that?
You think it'll be the old plastics?
I think it will be the old plastics. I think anything that was not in metal or resin will be re-released. If it was metal or resin, I will say that you will probably get a splash release that'll be like, this was like a limited time thing. Get it here, and that'll be it.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
And I will tell you that how GW is going to get people to buy into this game when a lot of people have like a lot of resin producers, like resin sculpt producers, have put out some very, very nice 1-to-1 figs. Is going to be interesting.
Yeah, here's the deal. If they use the old models, I'm obviously just going to get a 3D printed Total War army.
Yeah.
Like,
here's the deal, Jack.
Yeah, listen here, Jack, as I'm slurping down an ice cream cone.
Yes. I'm tired of your malarkey. Now show me how to open up a PDF.
Yeah, exactly.
How do I put this PDF on my VCR?
Biden beam.
You lie.
Yeah,
right.
so hopefully they do not do that. That would be very disappointing.
There will be new armies released. There'll be Kislev, Cathay.
Yes.
But that's going to be it. Like they're going to have they'll probably do a splash army release for like a new thing, and everything else will be the old plastics.
I'll be very disappointed if that's the case. Well, no, I guess I wouldn't be very disappointed. I just, like I said, I'll just go off the Total War sculpts.
Yeah. Well, the thing with the Tomb, there's not really anybody who's really got Total War rips of the Tomb Kings. Just to let you know,
I'm sure someone will.
Maybe.
I'm sure I can ask any of the guys who know how to do the rips. I could just be like, hey, you want a commission job to rip these files?
I mean, I've seen Undead with the vampire counts, but I just have not seen them with the Tomb Kings. And even with the vampire counts, it was very few. There's really only one guy doing the rips, the 1-for-1 rips.
Sure, but I said I'm sure I could, contact that guy or find someone who has the technical know-how and commission them to do it.
Yes. So that's kind of I'm pretty convinced, and that's what it's going to be. And they'll probably do it like a month by month kind of re-release. It'll be like a splash release with some of the stuff being available in either resin or metal, depending. So it's like, oh, here's the High Elf army. Here's all of the plastics for the High Elf army. You can get, whatever have you. And if you want this Imric or this Tyrion, or whatever, it's going to be available in metal for like a 2-week period. Just buy it now and then you'll get it. So.
I'm still hoping that they do a variant and make armies comprised of essentially what would be considered starter box sprues. Just where it's mostly single piece plastics. That's still my hope.
Yeah, the thing GW would resculpt an entire army for this game is a little bit beyond me.
I don't know well, here's the thing. I mean, I don't know how any of the like printing technology works for plastic and 3D scanning, but presumably one would be able to scan a figure and not have to resculpt it and just recast it essentially on a different sprue configuration and just, because you have the updated printing process. Like
scanning tech's not there yet. You have to buy a really, really expensive scanner to do that.
Okay, I was wondering if GW actually had one.
They might. I mean, they probably could afford to get a very expensive scanner. I just know that like the high tech dental ones, like those are like $100,000.
Yeah, those are.
And they're not. And so I know some people who use those on figures because they work at a dentist's office, so they just after hours will scan something.
That's awesome.
And it's not great. I mean, it's good. It's about as good as you can get. But it's not like perfect yet.
Well, they have the talent, they could just scan it and have someone manually do the adjustments, right?
We got the tools, we got the talent.
All I'm saying is that I'm just intrigued. I'm really interested. I'm interested to see what happens.
Yeah. All right. So we're at the end of our time now. You could go to our Game Classic Facebook page. It's the best way you can get the link to the Discord, where we actually are very much more active. Steve's living it up on the Discord. Getting some Total War games going, mostly shit posting. I really wish that Steve would get rid of the anime board.
No deal.
He refuses.
It's one of our most active boards.
I don't know what's this Nike Goddess of Victory. It's some stupid anime you watch.
No, it's a mobile game. It's great.
Okay. I keep getting notifications for it.
You can turn off notifications by channel, my friend.
I know.
No, that's literally there for me. It's not there for anyone else. It is literally there just for me because I have it set up to send the news for the game onto that channel so I don't miss it.
Yeah. No, I every time I go to mute the channel, I always see like delete channel. I'm just like, Anywho, yes. So you can go to our Discord. We post all the stuff that you like in here. Mostly
I can actually make it a private channel.
Yeah, I actually did I'm mostly active on 3D printing and Star Trek.
Fair enough.
Oh, and if you want to get other places to get in contact with me, you can do it on Instagram. I'm Game Classy Joe on Instagram. Steve's not anywhere else, mostly Discord if you want to get a hold of him, unless he's back on Twitter.
No, all of my Twitter accounts were banned.
Yes, all of his Twitter accounts were banned. And mostly for threatening content, which is weird.
They were all for threatening content.
If I had a nickel for every time Steve was banned for threatening someone online, I'd have 10 nickels.
You'd have a lot of nickels, to be honest.
I would have a lot of nickels. Steve. Oh, the best way you can help out the podcast, like, comment, subscribe on the iTunes, or like, comment, subscribe on the YouTube, which also where it goes up. So, Steve, until next time.
By all of the rules of food and soup, the ocean is soup.
Game Classy.